It's a kind of focused level of stress where people are doing their jobs. We've spent months preparing for this. We knew this was coming.
Tonight at 6 on Alaska's news source, the glacial release from Suicide Basin above Mendenhall Lake is underway. We'll show you the preparations happening now to keep people safe as evacuations begin.
And I'll have a live look at the water levels tonight and how much higher they'll be tomorrow, along with the increasing rain chances across South Central and the interior.
President Trump prepares for his historic summit in Alaska with Putin. Representative Begich weighs in as speculation continues over exactly where it will take place.
You're watching Alaska's news source.
And now at 6, the water rising on Mendenhall River expected to reach historic levels in less than 24 hours. That, of course, has activated evacuations to try and prevent potential dangers, like when homes fell into the river during flooding back in 2023, as you're seeing in this video, or when water flooded hundreds of homes last year. Flood warnings are in effect.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Augusta McDonald.
And I'm John Thompson. We have complete coverage on this tonight.
And now Georgina Fernandez spoke with those in charge of the emergency response in Juneau. She's standing by, but we start with Chief Meteorologist Melissa Fry for the latest water levels. Melissa.
Yeah, Gus and John, we're seeing water rising quickly today. Again, the basin released late last night. Water has been rising ever since. Take a look at these numbers, with now seeing moderate flooding on the Mendenhall River. Latest stage there at 11.33 feet. Expected to climb all the way to more than 16 feet by around 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. That would be a new record. The highest it had ever been was during last year's flooding, when it stopped just shy of 16 feet. But again, expected to be well above that by tomorrow afternoon. This water all coming from Suicide Basin, which is releasing. That is going to be the source of this major flooding. All of the areas that you see here highlighted in red are the areas that are being asked to evacuate now. This is where we are expecting water to flood in the next 24 hours. Everything highlighted here in red is expected to be underwater as we see river levels rising quickly through the night and into tomorrow morning. Now, again, this is all coming from Suicide Basin. This is a glacial dammed lake, just a basin of water that fills up here throughout the summer season. It is now full. This is what it looks like. You can see Mendenhall Glacier on one side trapping that water until it has nowhere else to go, and then it releases. And that is where the water is coming from. Again, spilling down into Mendenhall Lake and Mendenhall River. You can see it filling just with rainwater, snow melt, glacial melt throughout the summer season. But those water levels now dropping, and that water again all headed there into Mendenhall Lake and River. Again, this crest tomorrow forecasted to be well above last year's historic crest of just shy of 16 feet, which was even higher than what we saw in 2023. That's when those homes were swept into the river. So this will likely be a significant and historic event. It is really important that you're paying close attention to those warnings, that you're paying attention to the evacuation advisories, as those waters are expected to reach major flood stage by tomorrow morning. And we'll continue to monitor this through the night.
All right, Melissa, thanks so much. And as flooding increases, the city and borough of Juneau tell us this is what they've spent months preparing for.
Our complete coverage continues with Georgina Fernandez. Georgina, what resources available for people who need help right now?
John and Augusta, as extreme as this type of flooding, like we saw last year, this is starting to become a new norm for folks in Juneau, although this year could be more extreme. Over the past few years, we've seen extensive damage, including houses like here in 2023 that have been swept away from the flooding. The city and borough of Juneau is hoping that by using flood barriers this year, it can minimize the extent of damages. Last year, around 300 homes were impacted by flooding. This year, they're hoping those numbers, if any, will stay in the double digits. But CBJ is still advising people in the risk areas to evacuate and avoid the river. Shelter space is now open at the Floyd Dryden Gymnasium. Animals are not allowed, but can be boarded at the Juneau Animal Rescue for $5 a day. The Red Cross of Alaska is telling folks to stay alert and take the essentials with them.
Just bring things that you would normally have in your go bag, such as medication, glasses, your identification, If you have any things that provide comfort to you, we would also recommend you bring in those, a charger for your phone.
And if you have a child in the Juneau School District, your first day of school on Thursday could be impacted. The superintendent says a decision on whether the district will close school district-wide for Thursday will be made tomorrow by noon. Families will be alerted via automated phone calls, texts, emails, and through the JSP app.
Georgina, thanks so much. And with the Suicide Basin release, just a heads up, the Diamond Park Fieldhouse, Park Aquatic Center, and the rest of the park are closed today. That will remain the case until further notice. This is a precaution due to expected flooding. And as Alaska prepares to host President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin for a summit this Friday, the location of where that's happening has reportedly been finalized by White House officials. We're working to completely confirm those details. There's also more information unfolding that could impact potential peace talks for the war in Ukraine. Today, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky saying the Russian army is currently making moves that signal a new offensive operation. As of right now, Zelensky has not been invited to Alaska for this meeting. President Trump has previously confronted Zelensky about the war, as well as criticized Russian President Putin for escalating the conflict. Zelensky and some European allies fear negotiations with Trump this week will favor Russia. President Trump argues the meeting will have positives and negatives for everyone, but he says he's confident in the possibility of some kind of resolution.
At the end of that meeting, probably in the first 2 minutes, I'll know exactly whether or not a deal can be made. How will you know that?
The summit in Alaska will mark the first time Putin has been invited to the U.S. outside of the United Nations in 18 years.
Well, President Trump and Russian President Putin's Alaska Summit will be historic for the state.
Tonight, our investigative reporter Johnson Kuhn tells us Alaska Representative Nick Begich says he's encouraged about the meeting's potential. Johnson.
That's right. With only a few days left before the summit, Representative Begich weighed in today on why he says all Americans, despite political affiliations, should recognize the need for the conflict in Ukraine to come to an end, calling Friday's meeting, quote, the first step in making sure that occurs.
It's an exciting time for Alaska.
Representative Begich referencing what he feels is an opportunity for Alaska to serve as the venue for such an important discussion. After President Trump's announcement last week saying the two world leaders would meet in Alaska to discuss possible ways to end the war in Ukraine, it's left many to speculate on just where exactly in Alaska the meeting will take place. Begich saying that regardless of exact locations, the time to find a peaceful resolution is now.
I think it's important for people to recognize that regardless of how they feel about the war, they should recognize that it's important for us to end that conflict. And the United States, as the world leader for freedom, has a role to play in ending conflicts. And we've seen this administration prioritizing peace around the world in areas of the world that many Americans didn't even realize that there were conflicts.
Now, as to the question of whether Ukraine President Vladimir Zelensky would be present for the summit, Begich said he's hopeful he'll be there at the table, saying, quote, we've got to have everyone at the table to make sure that we have an opportunity for a full and complete dialogue. Johnson Kuhn, Alaska's news source.
All right, Johnson, thanks so much. We'll continue to track plans for that summit this Friday. And now an Anchorage immigration attorney tells Alaska's news source and ICE officials arrested one of her clients, an asylum seeker, when he arrived to work yesterday at an Anchorage sushi restaurant.
He's got a very strong asylum case, but they decided to grab him, and it was apparently based on false information that they had that he had been convicted of a DWI. He hasn't been charged with DWI or convicted of DWI, but that's the government's excuse for grabbing him.
Stock says 30-year-old Santiago Ortiz Martinez is waiting for a decision on his asylum application to remain in the U.S. His attorney, Margaret Stock, says he's been in the United States for more than 8 years. There's currently no record in Alaska District Court of Martinez being charged for a DWI. Again, in Alaska's district court system, we checked for that. He was fined, however, in traffic court earlier this year for driving without proof of insurance. That case is now showing closed. Martinez was granted a work permit while awaiting a decision on his asylum case. ICE has not yet responded to our request for comment.
Thanks for listening. Click subscribe so you can get the latest podcast from Alaska's news source automatically. And stay up to date with breaking news and in-depth reporting available for free 24/7 with the Alaska's News Source app.